Welcome back to a Telltale Books video. I'm Greg and I'm continuing my Harlan Ellison read everything I can get my hands on in order of publication. And I am now at story number 30 in my bibliography, which may or may not be complete. And this one is it's a serial that was published in installments over very many years, 50 years to be exact, in a fan magazine. The story is called Nissassa, and it was published in installments in a fan magazine titled Science Fiction 5 Yearly, starting in issue number 2 of the magazine, which was published in November 1956. The final installment was in the last issue of the magazine, published in November of 2006. Now, each installment was very short. As a matter of fact, 2 of the installments were basically just saying that there wasn't an installment. The first time he did that, he just had 2 chapter headers and nothing underneath. He published this under a pseudonym of Nalra No Seal, Nalra No Seal, something like that. Which, if you look at it carefully, you'll realize Nissassa is assassin backwards. Nalra is Harlan backwards, and No Seal is Ellison backwards. So just reverse the words, and that's how he came up with the story, and really the whole magazine. The magazine Science Fiction 5 Yearly, it was published once every 5 years, starting in 1951 and ending in 2006. And that's where it gets the title 5 Yearly. Every 5 years you get a new issue of this magazine. And there were some authors that published in every issue, such as Robert Bloch. There were a lot of other really excellent authors that contributed, like Algis Budrys and Robert Silverberg, and of course Harlan Ellison. And most of what was published, both articles and stories, were in a light vein. This was fun. It was satire. It was basically just a big joke, pointing fun at science fiction, very much similar to what Forrest Ackerman and Ray Bradbury did with their fan magazines. And they, of course, were also, just like Science Fiction 5 Yearly, were being put together and published in California. So there's probably a lot of influence on Science Fiction 5 Yearly from Bradbury's fan magazine and Forrest Ackerman's fan magazine that had been published in the 30s and 40s. But none of the fiction, and especially not Nissassa, was intended to be professional writing. None of it was intended to be taken seriously. It was all just a big joke. And so in Nissassa, you have these parts of a story which doesn't really hang together as a story. They all involve Floyd Aaron Horstman, and this character keeps getting himself into trouble, but there's no continuity with the installments that came before. They're all completely new and unique, and even at the beginning of the story, where there's a sort of recap of what has happened before, the things that are recapped are not anything of what happened before. So the story is interesting, but I would only suggest it to the Harlan Ellison completist. This isn't professional fiction. Even though Ellison knew how to write really well, he didn't bother here because that's not what it was what it was about. This was taking a vacation from being a professional writer and just having a good time, which he did. And as such, it's fine. It's funny. There are parts that get really wacky, but there's not a continuous story. There's not really an ending to it. And I think the modern reader, especially if you don't know anything about science fiction fandom, would be very confused by this whole thing, going, what the heck? What is Ellison trying to do here? You know, you would, if this was your first Harlan Ellison, you would think that he did not know how to write because he purposely violated a lot of the standards of professional writing in putting this together in order to poke fun at some of the bad writing that was going on in the genre. The only way you're going to find the installments of this story is to dig up online, like I did, the free PDFs that exist of all of the issues of Science Fiction 5 yearly. I was able to get every issue, although there's one issue, I believe it's the 1996 issue, if I'm not mistaken, where Ellison, it just states right in the PDF that the text has been of Nissassa has been removed at the request of the author. Ellison did not want, at one time must have decided he didn't want the story distributed digitally, and so he had them remove it. But just that one installment, even the two installments that came after that, they're in the magazine, so he must have changed his mind. And it's not like this is anything that it's never been collected anywhere. This isn't professional writing. It's just fun crap. And so this isn't going to go down in future history. This is going to be forgotten about very quickly, I would imagine. You know, so I guess I would say go after this one only if you're a diehard Ellison fan. Everyone else, you're probably just not going to like it. It's not going to be anything of what would be considered a good story. That said, that was, of course, the first installment was published in November 1956, the last installment in November 2006. I'm calling this a 1956 story, even though only the first installment was actually written in 1956. The rest of it was written after. Oh well, deal with it. So we got 3 more stories coming from November of 1956. The next one I'm going to cover is Girl with the Bedroom Eyes, which was first published in Ellison's infamous book called Sex Gang and published under the pseudonym of Paul Merchant. That will be coming up next as number 31 in Ellison's bibliography. I hope you will join me for that and all the other great Ellison stories that are coming up in this exploration, and all the other great fiction I'm covering. Lots of Stephen King, of course, and lots of other authors I'm getting to also, especially in the videos I do with Emily. We're covering some very interesting stuff these days. And so come on back and join us for those.